Hello, my name is Nora Huddleston. I'm a graphic design major with a minor in studio arts. I've always liked art and animation, which have had a major influence on the development of my own artistic style and the type of design and art I wish to work in. Throughout my journey at Colby-Sawyer College, I've taken several graphic design and art classes that have helped me further my technical skills and personal preferences. Through taking these classes, they have allowed me to think about the larger meaning I wish to put into my artwork through color choices and composition. Visual communications, which I took in the spring semester of my freshman year, allowed me to blend illustration and other forms of drawing with some typography to create messages with a limited amount of words. This image is a compiled piece created for Visual Communications 2. The goal was to meld 3D lines and shapes with various words to replicate the stages of meditation. With this project, I wanted to continue making larger sets of work while exploring new skills with Adobe Illustrator. With this in mind, I made 4 separate artboards and created a 3D grid that would allow me to create multi-dimensional 3D patterns. Originally, I did not plan to add words to the image, but felt as I created each part and combined them that they could represent states of meditation or calmer thinking. Starting from the stress of life at the bottom, the viewer would pass through each level before finding a mental balance. I achieved this feeling by compressing different lines on the bottom layer of the tower and then moving to the top layer, which is much more simplified. Another 4-piece illustration made for Visual Communications 2. With this, it started with me wanting to further refine my pen tool skills with Adobe Illustrator. This idea grew from an illustration I made revolving around a cockatiel in which I used more summer-focused colors such as pinks, reds, and yellows. This idea then evolved into me wanting to focus on the 4 seasons and using birds and color palettes that are generally associated with each season. The spring illustration uses a blue jay, summer is a cockatiel, fall, or otherwise known as autumn, is a barn owl, and finally winter uses a penguin. The patterns that are also placed within each bird also focuses on the season in which I have them in to create another level of contrast so that each represents the general feelings associated with the seasons. This image set was created for Visual Communications 2. This project grew from the prompt to visit a campaign website and choose one of the campaigns listed to create a poster for it. The campaign I chose focused on the protection of gray wolves in the wild, as they're often killed and hunted. I've always loved wolves and feel that they should be respected and protected from unjust killing. I wanted to portray them as kings of the wild, and that was one of the prompt requirements. Furthermore, the campaign wanted a limited color palette, hence why I only used 3 colors. Early on, I focused on keeping to black and white alongside one highlighting color, such as yellow or blue. After multiple different compositions, I copied the final composition and used several different color palettes before asking people to vote on which would be the strongest. The other 4 compositions grew from me wanting to have a complete set for the spring juried art show. This project is what made me realize how much I enjoy making large sets of artwork that all relate to each other. Made for typography during sophomore year, melding both skills from freshman year and type. The focus of this typography project was to redesign a poorly organized brochure for Nike or New England Culinary Institute. I chose to add a more simplified apple pie to fill in the negative space alongside the bottom. I also chose to use the red fork and spoon to contrast the black text. This project is one of my earliest attempts at creating an effective hierarchy that would allow the information to make better sense. This is a great experience in experimenting on how text can be equally as effective as images. Completed for information design related to the Maple Syrup logo contest, which happens each year. With this project, it forced me to think outside of my normal design boundaries and play with pre-existing imagery found within the CSC archives. The other design included more hand-done watercolor backgrounds, carefully matched with a sans serif typeface to show hierarchy, legibility, and contrast between the type and images. One of the main challenges was to effectively show all the important information within a small amount of logo space. Overall, I found that I was able to create an end product that I'm happy with and enjoy showing within my portfolio. Another blending of skills including type, visual communications, and the hierarchy of information. This is one of the earliest infographics that I made, which blended previous skills that I've learned from typography and visual communications. I chose to make it about the Airedale Terrier as I have a dog with this breed back home and wanted to spread more information about her breed and temperament. I'm actually very proud of this infographic as I find it very well organized and the typeface that I used reads quite well. The contrast that also grew from the pink backdrop behind the black text also allows it to be read easier. Completed this semester in part with Capstone. The main goal was to create a postcard that told all necessary information relating to my preferred email, profession, etc. I knew from the beginning that I wished for the front to show my more illustrative side that shows texture alongside skulls and roses, which has become some of my favorite subjects to draw and study. The main challenge which came from this is balancing text within the front of the postcard with the highly detailed imagery, which leads to the handwritten typeface you see on the bottom right. The visual elements placed in the bottom left corner were made in order to make visual cohesion through similar colors and elements. Keeping elements within the back and front of the postcard remained one of the most important goals that I had, as I did not want the end composition to look like separate images completely. Overall, I've reached a product that I am happy with and excited to send out to various clients and friends in the future, alongside possibly translating the design into a business card format. A more personal illustration of a D&D character that I used to create an illustration using Photoshop brushes for illustration class in the spring semester of my junior year. Illustration and character design have always been interests of mine, so when I was able to take an illustration class, I found it very fun. Being taught how to use Photoshop brushes to paint and create more effective compositions and shading is something that I brought into my personal illustration and found that the mixing of textures and transparency settings allowed for more contrast between the layers of color and shading. This is a full-body illustration of my D&D character Freya that is seen on the right that I got inspired to create after making the first illustration. I followed a similar process to the previous illustration of Freya, but rather than shading each section, I took the time to fully color and then shade the image, which resulted in a new illustration style that I quite enjoy and have taken up to using in my other personal work. Furthermore, in my past personal illustrations, I've always made each shape a flat color and then use shading to add depth, but through this, I play with line work and different line weights. In icon set made for illustration class, the goal was to make a cohesive set of icons that could be used online or in another form of media. I created these as the COVID-19 pandemic continued to get worse, so I wanted to have some form of positive reminder to stay on the calmer side and to not let my own emotions overwhelm me and cause me to not create my best work. Originally, I wanted to use multiple different animals such as frogs, axolotls, and dogs, but soon found myself not being able to keep them consistent. This led me to choose one animal to focus on, cats, and turn to a monochromatic color palette. The way I created this icon set can be easily translated into other products such as stickers and buttons. I find that whenever I am personally feeling strong emotions, looking at some sort of positive reminder can be personally calming. Furthermore, I feel as though I can expand upon this project with other animals. From my more fine artworks, I learned that during my junior year, I quite enjoy using charcoal and making mixed media pieces on a larger scale. I completed the drawing seen on the screen during my drawing foundations class. While realism is not something I often did in the past, it is an important skill to have. The ribcage drawing seen on the left is a mixed media drawing made from charcoal and ink. The goal is to look inside of a skeleton's ribcage, as you can often find interesting perspectives and shapes. Skeletons have always been something I enjoyed drawing, so to be able to have one so close in the drawing studio allowed me to indulge and study its form and structure. The chaotic ink that is seen throughout the edges of the composition gives a sense of unnerve and chaos. This self-portrait is another charcoal piece that I am proud of, as realistic portraits have always been something that I've been working on as I often skew and make the drawings have more cartoon-like facial features. This self-portrait, it has given me a better understanding of how close together human proportions are and how it can apply such features to a more cartoon look. The self-portrait has influenced my drawing style in many ways, such as how I structure my facial features and overall expressions. I wanted this charcoal drawing to demonstrate the overwhelming feeling that can happen at the beginning of every semester, but it's become even more prominent due to the compressed semester due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I wanted to use the ribcage to symbolize the growing jail cell that can develop as you find out more about the different projects professors and teachers will assign you throughout the semester. This is a fun project to do, as it allowed me to meld more abstract elements that can be seen around the hand, giving almost a message of hope, and the black and white charcoal intermingling throughout the composition. Throughout my time at Colby Sawyer College, I've met many professors who have helped me gain a better understanding of the type of art and design I wish to work in. I wish to further refine these skills as I grow older and prepare to enter the professional workforce. Thank you for your time.